Well, good morning, everyone. How is everyone here? We've got quite a few more to register, but we're sort of scheduled to start about now, so I thought we'd kick off. I'd like to start off with just a wonderful welcome to you all. DEBRA is here for its community. We arrange these events for you. Today is a family event. So looking around, we've got some small children. Hello to you. I've had 6 children. If at any stage during the day those children begin doing their job, and their job is to scream and run around and cause mayhem, then you know, we're cool. Please be cool about that. We have got a separate room you can go to if you want to. I want to start off, I can't see her in my room at the moment, but I compare organising this event to arranging your own wedding. And the preparations started, 6-9 months ago. So a big thank you to Claire Mather and her team for all the work they have done. All is good, all is calm. There's an awful lot of preparation has happened. I'm sure there will be some challenges during the day, but that's what it's all about. If you hear a fire alarm, it is going to be real. You can see the green exit sign there and the green exit sign there to go through. As at a funeral a while ago, very sad affair, halfway through a funeral, a mobile phone went off. It did, and the vicar was really quick. The vicar said, he said something along the lines of, that's a bit too late if it's for the deceased. And everyone laughed at that, and he was on the flow, and he said, so whatever you do, don't say that you're going to arrange for a callback. But if you've got a mobile phone, if you put it on silent, we'd appreciate it. As I said, for young children, it is your responsibility. This theme park is an open place. We're trying to keep it as closed as possible, but keep an eye on your children at all time. I just want to go through the rooms. This is known as the Tower Suite, where I'll talk for in a moment what we're going to cover during today. The doors through there lead through to the Hamilton Suite. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's like a lounge, lots of space to run around. In there, you've got a whole set of TV screens. You can hear what's been said. It's live streaming. So if you do want to move through to there with young children or whatever, you're not going to miss out on anything during the day. If you move on a bit further in there, you can see some silver tassels. That's called the Victoria Room, also known as the Cave. A good place for teenagers, I'm told. We've got a PlayStation in there, and there's a number of workshops that will run during the day. And if it's not pouring the rain, we've got the bandstand outside. So if I can, I just want to try to give you an overview of what we're going to cover in this room here today. And it's not everything, but it's a selection. We're going to have a presentation about gene editing, and one of the potential ways that we can develop 2 treatments. We've got 2 biotech companies here. One's come from America and the other's come from Ireland. We've got a podiatrist from Great Ormond Street who's going to be talking about how to treat EB feet. We've got a presentation, really glad that he's here, from Professor Inman, and he's going to be talking about understanding the natures of EB cancer. Perhaps most importantly, we've got our own community support team here. I think we're the only DEBRA worldwide that can afford to have a team like we've got. The basics, how do you get your benefits? What about PIPs, carer's allowance? And perhaps most importantly, if you're applying for a claim and you're not successful and if it's rejected, we're there to help you on actually making sure you get what you and your family need. A very special moment for me later on this afternoon after the AGM. So after lunch, we've got the annual general meeting where our interim chairman will be presenting to you. We've then got Simon Weston. He's not here at the moment. People of my generation will know that name. It's engraved in our minds from what happened in the Falklands Islands. I'm really delighted that he's become our president. And I'm sure he'll be talking about his experiences with his surgery and his burns, and he feels a real connection with people with EB. What is a hero? Because you've seen, what is a hero? A hero is somebody who gives of themselves. And I think anybody who actually has EB, or families, people who try to help and care for people who EB, I think they're superheroes. I really do. I have got some special welcomes. I don't think she's here yet. I can't see Shamila Collins from Cure EB, but it'd be a big welcome to her and the work she's doing. And I've got some names I'll need to read out. They've come from Jimmy Theorem, who's from DEBRA in Ireland. Rachel Connors, Eileen, Casey and Jaden, Gunita and Greg with Mark and Maria, Rachel Reed and Greg with Alana. I hope you're all here. Any hands up? I'm not going to recognise faces. Yes, welcome from Deborah Island. Really glad you're here. All right, let me kick on. I must thank our sponsors. They're generous in terms of helping to fund a day like today, especially Bullen and Flen Health. I think I've covered everything on safety. If you've got any questions, there's lots of people here with green T-shirts on. Just go up and ask them, and they'll endeavour to help. All right, here we go. I showed this slide, I think it was last year, and I showed it at a number of presentations during last year. I'm not going to go through the detail. It just maps out the extraordinary things that this organisation has achieved. It started with the wonderful Phyllis Hilton. She had a daughter called Deborah. And I'm told the story is they were sitting around a kitchen table, very similar to a day like today. In those days, there was only a few families who were gathering together. And somebody was trying to think, what should we call ourselves? And somebody wrote down Dystrophic EB Research Association. So right at the beginning, they know the importance of research. And somebody said DEBRA, and that's the name of your daughter. So that's one of the stories. One of my fundraisers said, I love the name, Defeat EB, Raise Awareness. And I may say a bit more about our name and branding later on. But that slide is trying to talk about the phasing. DEBRA UK was the first organisation to fund any EB research. We created the concept of the nurse specialist and funded that. We've funded the NHS to make the NHS a better service for people with EB over the long term. We invested in the Rare Disease Centre. If we hadn't done that, it wouldn't exist. And as I said, perhaps one of the most important things was creation of our own community support team to try to make a difference to you in the room here today, because we know there's not cures on the table yet for us. So let me just, that was the history. What happened last year? Well, last year we provided care to over 2,000 UK members. If you know people who aren't members, please encourage them to become members. It gives us the capability to reach out and support and do more. We're not one Deborah. There are now 45 or more Deborahs worldwide. In fact, I sometimes talk about the fact there's 5,000 people in the UK with EB. There's really 500,000 worldwide. And getting to treatments for EB is a global challenge. We spend a lot of time collaborating with Deborahs worldwide. DEBRA UK, in its own right now, has got the financial capability to be funding small-scale clinical trials. And we're trying to focus on trials that will have an impact in the short term, that can have an impact on symptoms. But there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies that have taken an active interest in this area as well, and they're now funding clinical trials. So to give you some numbers, it was almost 400 home visits, over 600 respite days in holiday homes, over 200 support grants. We encourage and we fund this concept of clinical best practice. How should a dentist be trained and be aware if he's treating somebody with EB? What's the best way to care for an EB wound? What do you do when cancer starts? And those are global initiatives to create best practice. We're funding, and we have a big event coming up at the start of next year. Caroline Collins at the front. She's a lady walking around on Hoblin at the moment. She's already put about 18 months hard work into EB 2020. We're going to talk a bit more about that during the day. One of the days we're hoping that people here will actually come along to, and we'll be subsidising that to get along there. It is going to be the best researchers, it's going to be pharmaceuticals, it's going to be the best clinicians, and we hope it's going to be all of the Deborahs worldwide in London for 4 days. Quite a big commitment for us. We think it's enough for us to chew on. We are the largest Deborah. We feel we've got a responsibility to do it, but quite a big event happening in London at the start of next year. With the money we've got on our balance sheet, we've been able to invest over £10 million in research in the last decade. Let me be candid. We cannot raise this money without you, people in the room. It is your stories that we need to tell. There are a lot of charities out there. We need your stories if you feel comfortable about talking about the the impact that EB has on your day-to-day life. We really need those stories. We've created patient panels, because I've been here for over a decade now, and initially we sort of didn't involve the community in deciding what research projects we should fund. And it was something that dear Mike Yeager really majored on. He really did work hard to understand the science and try to give the priority with resources we've got. So that concept of talking to patients before we commit to research is important. I'm almost losing count. In fact, it's over 20, and Caroline's not correcting me as I look down. There's over 20 clinical trials that we know about, that we're following worldwide. So we've got some momentum here. I talked about Big Pharma, about $500 million. I can't get my head around these numbers when they get that large. $500 million? No, sorry, $500 million. I can't count. A lot of money. And a lot of startup biotechs. I'm going to show a slide in a bit more. We're working hard to be monitoring what is happening in the big world out there. They're nearly all USA, although I say we've got Merrett Pharmaceutical here today. Delighted they're here. They're based in Ireland. And worldwide, there's hundreds of patients who have been or now on worldwide trials. And I only have to go, it was something Mike Yeager used to say quite often. You only have to go back a few years, and we were in the phase of dreaming about trials, dreaming about clinicians and companies having confidence to actually try out what we'd learned during our discovery phase. We still fund, we're delighted to fund a quarter of our excellent clinical nurse specialists. We support the 4 centres of clinical excellence, 2 in London, 2 in Birmingham. We're constantly funding training and supervision for our healthcare professionals. We do a lot of events. This is a weekend event. We do smaller events for the community. Anybody guess how many fundraising events we do? I can't see Hugh here at the moment. We do about 20 golf events alone. So we do an awful lot of physical events to get people together, to tell the story, to try to raise money. And our team of the EB Community Support Managers, they're talking to us today. Jim's not here. I don't want to steal his funder, but the board have agreed that we can fund another 3 EB Community Support Managers. We agreed that last month. So almost a 50% increase in our team. What we're finding out is more of the members of the community find out about that community support team, more people get registered, and the demand for those services are growing. So we're delighted to actually respond to it. So what's it all about? Well, our job is to search for cure or cures. We often refer to these, EB is pretty complex, we refer to them as the search for effective treatments. And in our own capabilities, we've got to focus on pain relief, on itch relief, wound healing, and trying to reduce the spread of cancer once it's actually detected. And a big concept is, because we know clinical trials take a long time, is getting this balance between that long term it takes to get to treatments and what can we do to improve the quality of life now. Please come in. Please come in at the back. Come in, grab a seat. You're very welcome. Quickly talk about last year. It was the best year ever for us as an organisation in terms of net money. Again, Jim will be talking about that. He's very proud of what we've achieved. £3.4 million was available to the trustees to spend. We spent about £3 million on research and care. Big chunk of this money is coming from our wonderful DEBRA shops, and about just over £1 million coming from our fundraising. One of the statistics that is used for efficiency is pence in the pound. We spent 83 pence in the pound that was available. On that point, research is lumpy. We will not invest unless it is the best quality. We will not invest unless we think it's going to make a difference. So we've actually got quite a bit of money on our balance sheet. If that had been spent on projects last year, that number would have been even higher. We have grown and grown and grown. We're now almost 400 employees, 800 volunteers, 6,000 weekly hours, and we've got this wonderful figure. We've now got over 50,000 gift aiders, people around the country, predominantly from our retail shops, who have gift aided. The money that gift aid is giving us is over £1 million a year, so that's wonderful for us. As I said, you start a job, and I started mine over a decade here. You get your head down, you push, you run, you're hard, you have setbacks, blah, blah, blah. We did a governance review last year, and I was shocked. We're now in the top 1,000 charities in this country. I talked about our name, DEBRA. It doesn't say, it's not the same as British Heart Foundation or cancer research, the name on the tin. We've had DEBRA for 40 years. So we've created a sort of a sub-branding, and I like it. It's called Fight EB. We will fight EB. We will beat EB. We've got about 3 million retail customers, people who go into our 120 shops during the year. It gives us a lot of awareness. All right, I want to talk about volunteers. About 10 minutes ago, I lit that candle. Quite a few in the room will know of, will have heard of dear Mike. Mike was the chairman of the board of trustees. He became president of DEBRA International. He was in his 40s. He was a great guy. One of the things he used to tell me was, I have EB, but I'm not going to let it affect me. And he really did live life to the full, and he gave, and he got a lot from this organisation. So it was, we miss him, and we lose too many, and we've got the candle lit there to remind us of that. There's another volunteer, as I said, Simon Weston. Maybe that picture reminds you. He was on HMS Galahad when it was bombed. He was on the boat that had all the ammunition and all the oil. And nearly everybody around him died. He's going to tell his story about the relevance and the resonance he feels with people with EB. I want to talk to you about a guy you don't know. You won't know Mark Maureen. I met him quite a few years ago. He came along to our fight night. I still can't get over this. It's this guy, Frank Warren. I think it's 15 years. Every year we raise 80, 100,000 pounds in the night. We've got boxers up in a ring, punching themselves, skin flying everywhere to help people with EB. It's a really wonderful event, and a lot of goodwill and a lot of money comes from it for us. This guy, Mark Maureen, he went along in 2010. He really fought. He got the message about EB. He got onto our events committee. He now brings over 15 tables, 150 people. It's only about 350 at the night. Example of, he doesn't have EB. He's heard the message. He's really got behind us. Well over £100,000 in donations. He does golf days, dinners. He cycles. He's a great guy. I want to tell you about a lady who's a volunteer in our shops. She told me, do not tell them the name of the shop. Do not let them know my name. But I'm going to tell you about her. She's an antique specialist, and she was a regular customer into one of our shops. And she went up to the manager and said, look, I know about antiques. I'm looking around here. I think you're underpricing. And the manager listened and gave her a role in there. And suddenly we discovered amber necklaces. If I'd looked at it, I would have thought it was a bit of plastic. Amber. 2 silk kimonos. Those are the dressing gowns. A painting. They're auctioned off for £6,000. She's identified other items worth £47,000, paintings worth £51,000. She just says to me, I enjoy the treasure hunt. And my message is we need volunteers. We really do. We need your stories. If any of you are close to a DEBRA shop, please, please, please go along. Introduce yourself. Say you're from a community. Have a chat with the manager. You'll be really welcomed. And it's really good for my staff to meet people for community, to make it real. Every time we do a staff event, every single time afterwards, I get the message. It was the people from the membership. It was the people who had EB who talked to us that actually remotivated us. And I've got a particular story a bit later on to share with you from a family who came along. As I said, last year I did have a bit of a shock. We had this governance review, and we had to do a huge amount of work for it and a lot of things. And I thought I'd do an exercise to sort of compare ourselves to other organisations. So excuse me for a moment. Thank you, sorry for that. And I looked at some hospices, 3 hospices. There's one of them, Helen and Douglas House. All this is public domain information. They'd actually declined 3% per year. My organisation is in difficulty. But I looked at Cornwall, I looked at St Peter's, I looked at Tenevis, I looked at their accounts. And I ignored Douglas House. It was just the other ones, because it would have skewed the numbers. And those 3 organisations have been growing over the last 5 to 10 years at about 2% per annum. It's kind of what you'd expect. That's what the economy grows at. I looked at the big names. I looked at Oxfam, Surrida, and British Heart Foundation. It's an organisation that I admire. It is hugely professional. It goes from strength to strength. The Heart Foundation has grown on average 7.7% per annum for the last 10 years. The average of those 3 is about 5.5. What about some names outside the charity sector? Everyone know Next on the high street, troubled high street. They've been growing. They're recognised as a world best retailer, grown about 2.5%. Tesco's, Actually, I'm more Aldi and Lidl myself now, at great value. Tesco's growing at about 1% per annum over the last decade. Vodafone, my phone, about 3%. So what do you think DEBRA's been growing at for the last decade? We have averaged 13% top-line growth over the last decade. As I said, we did the exercise. 185,000 charities. We've only been going for 41 years. We're now in the top 1,000 in terms of our size. And there's a graph there of our turnover growth over the last 2 decades. For the 3rd decade, we grew at 75%. 4th decade, we've grown by 130%. And certainly for that last decade, I'm going to personally thank, again, it should be Sir David Spence. I've got to be honest with you, mate. It really should be. I'm going to thank David. David had the foresight when we were not doing so well financially to convince the board to invest in furniture and electrical. It was a big commitment. I'll talk a bit about the extraordinary results on that. We did an acquisition. It made us millions. David encouraged me to invest in people and process and IT systems. So thank you again, David, for that period. How has success been achieved? Well, come August, my team will put their heads down again. Every single year, we write a detailed 3-year recurring plan. And we've got this concept of constant improvement. What can I do tomorrow? How can I make it better than what I did today? How can I improve? And that can be applied to nursing, that can be applied to a shop, that can be applied to fundraising. This concept inside us as an individual, what can I do to learn and improve? And a big part of that is to accept failure. We don't encourage repetition. We don't. But, you know, we need to make mistakes to learn from them. That was a message David often gave me when I'd be very worried and I'd call him, we'd open a shop and it wasn't doing well. You know, that's the nature of human life. I like a culture where we accept that. Hard work. Can I confide in you the real message I give my staff? Work hard, play harder. But work hard. Work hard, get your head down, do your best. Oh, ignore the naysayers. If I think back in my career, the times when people would say, you can't do that, it ain't gonna work, don't do that. Sometimes they're right, by the way. But, you know, you've got to get your heart and your mind behind things. And one of the most important things is ask for help. So remember the community, you know, ask for help. And there's something about human nature. I'll be honest with you, I've got 6 children. I am still waiting when one of them says to me, Dad, I need your wisdom. Dad, give me your advice. You know, I got a lovely text from my beautiful daughter, age 11, last night. And I knew what was coming when I spoke to her this morning. Daddy, I need some clothes. You know, it's more how much it's going to cost me when I get asked. But when I find if you ask another human being for advice, nearly always they will realise that there's a real compliment in there that they're being asked. What about 2018? Well, we went to Buckingham Palace. We had great chefs events. We had shooting, fight night, a huge amount going on there. In retail, we've got this mantra, always ask for gift aid. Scottish shops have been struggling. They're getting better. England's doing well. It's up to a good margin. Furniture and electrical, the board trusted me with £250,000, big chunk of money. We're now, it was a rocky road, I'll give you that. We're now making over double that. So in simple terms, £1 invested, £2 being made every single year. That furniture and electrical team alone are able to fund a clinical trial or 2 each year. So what about the big picture? Well, genetic discovery. All of our rare conditions, genetic conditions, you need to define and you need to gain a level of understanding. You're then into a phase of clinical trials and you're searching for effective treatment. And we had this phase for just over a decade where genes have been identified. We think we've now discovered all of the genes, so no doubt one will turn up in the next year or so, about 19 genes identified with EB, 38 subtypes, a lot of subtypes there. In 1995, it was in the UK, we have a prenatal diagnosis developed. We have a wonderful Robin Eady and his diagnosis centre. There are now diagnosis centres all around the world. And I want to share with you a story. I don't know, are the Talbots here today? I can't see you. I got that through on my mobile phone. That is Katie Talbot. She's the daughter of Karen and Simon. How Simon finished the London Marathon, I do not know. He had a big accident at the beginning, took him 6 hours. Well done to you, Simon. Katie is a sister to Dylan. Dylan very sadly passed away very early on. It was a diagnostics capability that had been identified by DEBRA that allowed Karen and Simon to know early on in the pregnancy that Katie was going to be free of EB. Very powerful piece of work that was done years ago that has an impact. I'm going to just talk a bit about our clinical trials. They're focused on quality of life. With cancer, the concept is we want to try and slow the spread of cancer once it's discovered. For some people with EB, the itch is unbelievable. You cannot sleep. It is appalling. Levels of itch unimaginable. We're looking to see if we can create some infusions, an easy treatment, and the MSC stands for mesenchymal stromal cells, and that's Professor John McGrath. And it was a project that Mike Yeager really majored on. What can we do for pain relief? What can we do for pain relief? I'm going to talk a bit about cannabinoids, which are a derivative of cannabis. EB 2020, it's in 9 months' time. It's going to be 4 days of world-leading understanding. It is updating all of us. It's an important concept. You know, our cause in terms of comparison to others is a small one. We need to be sharing information so we don't get duplication of research effort. We're going to have doctors from around the world, 45 countries. It's $250,000 budget to this organisation. That's about the amount of money we make in a month. Still, it's quite a commitment for us. Almost 500 attendees. These figures here are just for some of the larger DEBRAs. There's 4 or 5 DEBRAs that in the last decade have spent about 26 million euros, about €1.5 each year, complete range of projects. A lot of them are completed. There's over 100 DEBRA-funded researchers, 65 research institutions. There's 14 countries collaborating. This is a global cause. All right, cannabinoids. They've been in the news, and no doubt you've heard quite a bit about them. It's one of our trials. And we did it on the basis for EB. People have extreme levels of pain, and it never stops. And one of the main options is high doses of strong opiates. As Mike Yeager explained to me, well, Ben, I've been taking these for decades. I've got to be honest with you, Ben, they don't actually make the pain fully go away. It means you just don't care about it so much. And they have adverse side effects. So we did an exercise talking to patients. We did a call for clinical trials. There were 20 applications, blah, blah, blah. We got trustees committed to this. And we identified a component of a cannabis plant. It's a natural plant called a cannabinoid. We're not going to be asking to people to smoke cannabis. This is going to be a sublingual fluid that goes into the mouth. And we're not anticipating much in terms of psychoactive impact. It's already been tested on 3 patients who recorded a significant reduction in pain. The trial has been run in the Netherlands. For those who've been to Amsterdam, you perhaps understand why. The country is quite flexible in terms of cannabis. So that's one of our trials we're actually running. I'm not going to talk much to this. I created this just before Christmas. Around the circle, you've got 20 organisations. Nearly all of these didn't exist a few years ago. And we've tried to categorise them in the efforts they're making to try to get to clinical trials. A number are looking at cell therapy. That's putting cells into the body. There's creams, gels, drugs. And we are hopeful that we can find repurposed drugs. Drugs are already approved for one treatment that could be used for EB. Modifying genes, genetically editing skin and putting it back onto the body. Creams that can genetically edit the skin. And Phoenix at the top are hoping to create, well, they can create collagen 7 in the laboratory, and they're trying to get that collagen 7 into human skin. So the story I want to give you there is many different approaches. But these biotechs and pharmaceuticals simply didn't exist a few years ago. And they're there to explore their ideas and quantify the impact and improvement. So what are we really achieving? I often talk about this walking up a hill. Come on in, David. Grab a seat. Welcome. Good to see you, sir. And when you're climbing up a mountain, it is really important. I've only done it a few times. It's really important every now and again to stop. And you look back. And you look back because it's important to realise how far you have come, rather than looking forward and still seeing there's a mountain there to climb. And we really have come a long way. We know more about EB than ever before. We've got potential therapies that are entering into the human clinical trial stage for the first time. I've had good experience of seeing the level of provision of care worldwide. I genuinely believe, we all gripe about the NHS at times, but I do believe that the EB care in this country is the best in the world. Our organisation, DEBRA, has got strong growing income that builds capability, and our awareness of EB is growing, and it's higher than ever before. From our 3-year plans, we're looking to spend over $3 million on research in the next 3 years, over $4 million on healthcare. We're investing a lot in DEBRA International to encourage collaboration and get commonality of cause there. And I'm often asked, what's next, Ben? Where's the breakthrough coming from? And I just say, well, we're just going to carry on, and we're never going to stop. We're going to carry on until there's a world where no one suffers from EB. We're going to fight EB, and we're going to beat EB, and we're never going to stop fighting. So welcome from me. You've got a lot ahead of you for the rest of the day. Let me have a quick look. Our next 2 speakers are researchers. A bit confusing, because if you look at them, they look the same as us. The reality is they have got big brains and high intellect. Our first 2 today, first of all, is Dr. Peter Vandenacker, who's a DEBRA-funded clinical research fellow with Dr. Eileen Sanderlands. Both of them have worked at Dundee University. It's an organisation we've funded and supported up in Scotland for many years. And they're going to be talking to us about gene editing. So if you could give them a warm welcome, please.